Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope this video finds you well. Technically in this time zone, there has been what I call a psyop of the day of jihad. And for me, this is an exercise to see how many lost people will ruin their lives, right? Abandon their families and do something random that won't help anybody except cause more stigma to the Muslims. It's also an attempt to bait out the males in the Muslim community, which will leave a lot of women helpless. Okay, this is a way of luring out the men and trying to lock them up. There's money to be made by locking up people. Just look at for-profit prisons and just how much the taxpayer makes and the corruption of the corrections facilities and whatnot. There is a lot of shenanigans, essentially. Further, this is to stop the winning that Islam was doing in the culture war, because people were saying Islam understands women, understands gender roles, that men are allowed to be strong, they have a lot of children, they have multiple wives, or they have their wife and they stay loyal, no adultery. It was turning into a great time for Islam. So this is like an operation to reverse all that hard work, right? It's an attempt to make people afraid. It's again, and women were turning away from the OnlyFans content and leaving the workforce, having more kids and being stay-at-home moms and taking on the traditional gender roles. Now, if you want to dress modestly, you're going to be labeled as an extremist. So you want to deny men to just analyze you up and down and fantasize about you. You're the extremist now. So women were starting to say, you know what? I kind of want to be free from the plastic surgery, the makeup industry, the clothing fashion industry, and I want to be more minimalistic and spiritual and focus on my faith. That's a lot of money being cut off. Okay? So if they can now say, oh, look, there's that Orthodox woman. Maybe her husband is this. Maybe she's a sympathizer to that. Be afraid of her. Judge her. Ostracize her, give her the cold shoulder, make her feel so uncomfortable for wearing those clothes, and so backwards that she stops wearing it. Really think about this. How ridiculous would it be for an operation, even if that guy meant it? You have to stop and think to yourself, how many Muslims would end up in prison and how many children would be left alone? And in this new era, the revolution isn't, unless you're like in an active war and you have to defend your family and community. The way I think to win now is opening up businesses, having more kids, having farmland, helping Muslims become educated, helping women to stay married. There's so many different ways to win and to help Muslims. Going out and thinking you saw a J and doing something random to them, that doesn't convince any hearts. That doesn't do anything besides make the right-wing Christians lose their bridges that they're trying to build with the Muslims in America, and it isolates all the Muslim kids in school. And it makes parents afraid to put their kids in hijabs and thobes and stuff like that. And it makes brothers afraid to grow a beard. So essentially, that just seems like a giant propaganda attempt. And I highly recommend people to calm the nerves of everyone in terms of that. And to be rational. And I think it'll blow over. But I don't fall for that bait. I would say that you should think about all your responsibilities, everything you're accountable for, and understand what's happening, that hysteria is high, and all different ways something can be won, right? The power of the pen, as they say. there's a famous quote like the pen is mightier than the sword, stuff like that. That's basically what we have today. More Islamic banking, more Islamic universities, more Islamic public schools, in a sense. There's different ways in which you can spread the faith without doing something like that. So you have to look at local solutions, right? And that to me is the real path in which victory is sought and can happen. So let me know what you think. Just make that quick, and you won't see people apologizing for their fear-mongering of today, which I think is going to be quite funny, because the hysteria it's like the early 2000s all over again, except worse, because social media is more interconnected, and the algorithms benefit from such hysteria, and few people like to do retractions, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully everything's fine and chill and people feel utterly embarrassed.